We're going to call this meeting to order tonight, with Racine County Board. If the clerk could call the roll.
Supervisors Kelly, Spencer, and Varanth are excused, and I believe we have Supervisor Horace with us virtually.
Thank you. Tonight, we're going to have Supervisor Rossi lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Chairman. We'll wait. All right. Heavenly Father, we gather to lead and serve as we gather to lead and serve our county, we come before you with gratitude for the trust placed in us. We ask for your guidance as we work together to make decisions that affect the lives of many. As we approach the anniversary of September 11th, we pause to remember those who lost their lives, the families forever changed, and the bravery that emerged in the face of tragedy. We pray for your peace for those who still grieve and for your protection over our nation. May our actions tonight reflect compassion, unity, and a commitment to serve with integrity. Bless this meeting and all those who are here, and may we seek your will in all we do. Amen.
Amen. And now the pledge.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
County Executive Roanhouse. You want to make the introductions?
Thank you, Chairman Kramer. We are honored tonight to have the Executive Director and the Director of Data Performance from the Wisconsin Counties Association to come and talk with us. These two gentlemen, there are 72 counties in Wisconsin. These two gentlemen are probably closest to all 72 counties than any other two humans in the state. The Executive Director is Mark O'Connell, and the Director of Performance is Dale Knapp. And we're honored that they are here, and they're going to talk about their observations of how the 69 counties, as you know, have a sales tax. And they're just going to come here and talk about their observations with the 69 counties. The first two counties had a sales tax beginning 38 years ago. So they're just going to come here and they'll be open for questions and answers, but they're going to come here and talk about their observations, how the sales tax is a tool for delivering government in Wisconsin. I have to say something about if the WCA, Jonathan was the vice president of its board of directors. And if he was here, he would also talk about our Wisconsin Counties Association is, if it's not the leader, among the leaders of all county associations throughout the United States. Jonathan would tell you that if he went to the national convention with these guys, everybody wanted to stand next to him and rub elbows and bend their ear about good practices and best practices because they know Wisconsin is a leader in delivering government. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mark. Mark is going to take the podium first and then Dale. And they said they're more than happy and they welcome any questions. So we are truly honored. They drove an hour and a half from Madison to be here. So welcome to them, and they have a strong message. Thank you. Mark.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Executive, Mr. Chairman, members of the body, constitutional officers, members of the public. Very much appreciate being invited back to Racine County. We'll lay out some facts and figures related to the sales tax. Then I will talk a little bit about the economy, some action that the legislature took to connect the economies of local units of government, our local economies and the state economy, and how sales tax fits into that. And then we will talk a little bit about wherever you would like to go in terms of questions and answers. We will spend as much time as you desire. We are taking no position pro or against, but we will provide you with whatever information you believe is helpful to you as you make a decision about the future of Racine County. So with that, I'll step aside and my colleague Dale Knapp will walk through some facts and figures. You can interrupt us at any time. Don't wait till the end. Ask your questions as they occur to you, and Dale and I will answer them as best we can whenever they arise. So with that, Dale.
Thanks, Mark. And it is great to be here tonight talking to you. First, we're just going to start at a very high level and talk about the sales tax. Again, it's a 0.5% sales tax. I know there are some counties in the past that would have liked to have done something smaller, and some have wanted to do something larger. But it is set at a half a percent, 10% of the state sales tax. What a lot of people don't know was that this tax was actually implemented in 1969. And as was mentioned, the first counties that adopted it wasn't until 1985. The reason was when they put it in place, if you adopted the sales tax, all of the revenues had to go to underlying municipalities. So there was no incentive at all for counties to implement the tax. They changed that in 1985, and now you have the option to share the sales tax with local municipalities. There are a couple counties that share a portion of it, but the vast majority of counties use it to help fund their services. The law, as it was written, again, required that the sales tax be used to offset property taxes, and counties have been doing that. As far as adoption, most of the adoption came between 1985 and 2001. So we had, of the 72 counties, 41 had adopted it by 1991, and 55 by 2001. So most of the adoption came then. Since then, it's sort of been sporadic, and we've had 14 of the remaining 17 have adopted it. Manitowoc earlier this summer, and theirs will start in January of next year, leaving Racine, Waukesha, and Winnebago as the 3 counties without the tax. When you talk about collections, when you think about how much money gets raised, it's really all over the place. We generally look at it on a per capita basis to get a sense of counties that are generating a lot for their size versus others. And when you look at per capita property tax or per capita sales taxes last year, they range from 25 in Menominee County, a very, very small county. The next one, the next second lowest is 76 in Oconto. So really 76 is probably the floor, to more than $175 per capita in what I would call tourist counties, Vilas, Oneida, Sauk, and Dorr. So you have a lot of tourism, you generate a lot of sales taxes. As far as how do counties use the sales tax, it's really all over the place. Oftentimes when counties adopt it, they have specific uses in mind, that this is what it's going to go for. Generally over time, it becomes just part of general revenues, and that's generally what happened. There are still a couple counties that try to focus the sales tax on specific items, but for most counties, it funds, like the property tax, it funds a variety of services. And as I said, in terms of their budgets, it ranges from 7% of their revenues to about 13 or 14%. So you can figure 9% is generally the average of what they do. When we talk about monies generated, unfortunately, the Department of Revenue, for whatever reason, doesn't collect the information on sales taxes for counties that don't implement it. They have the technology because they collect it for everybody else, but we don't know exactly what Racine is going to generate. But I'm sure you've put together numbers to get a sense of where that is. So that's sort of this broad overview, and it's in terms of, I think that the biggest thing, in terms, it serves as a tool, especially when you look at what's happened with shared revenues over the years, not even close to keeping pace with inflation, other state aids. So for the counties that have had it, this has been a revenue source that has grown with the economy and has helped fill those holes that the levy limits on property taxes and the sometimes stagnant state aid have created. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark and let him talk about a little bit more about the economy and sales tax.
So just to add to what Dale indicated before we get to talk about the economy. To summarize what Dale said, with counties that have implemented the sales tax, if not for the sales tax, those counties' property taxes would be higher. The sales tax was implemented, collected, utilized for county operations. And if they did not have a sales tax, that revenue stream would not exist. And therefore, another revenue stream would have to have been utilized, which would have been property taxes, or something would not have been funded. That's another option. Something would have been cut. They would have not performed some service. Although if you are full up to the top on performing mandated services, you have very few options. So either you don't perform something, or you increase the property tax, or you look for another revenue stream. What 69 counties have done is say we're looking for another revenue stream to reduce or slow the growth of property taxes. Now, let's talk about the economy for a little bit. To unfairly describe what it is we desire as a state, I would suggest to you we go with this definition. We want more people making more money, engaged in more commerce, paying the same or more in taxes at current or lower rates. We should want that. That means we are a healthy state being positioned for success. The same or lower rate of taxes, but if we're doing better, we're collecting more. Now, as a state, we are number one or number two in manufacturing jobs. We flip-flop with Indiana, just depends on the particular year. We love every manufacturing job we have, and we want more. We absolutely do. But as a state, as a region, as a country, we are moving ever so steadily toward a new millennium knowledge technology-based economy, where the number one resource for profit is no longer oil, steel, water, or paper pulp. The number one resource for private sector success, private sector profit, is smart young talent. In the new millennium knowledge technology-based economy, that is the number one resource for private sector profit. And while we in this state have a significant public sector, we have a lot of public employees. But if we are going to be successful as a state, we need a very, very vibrant private sector. We need a very successful private sector. If we have a private sector that's making $100 in Racine County, we want them to make 1,000. If they're making 1,000, we want them to make 1,000,000. We want them to do very, very well. And in that new millennium knowledge technology-based economy, we want them to have the resources necessary for the private sector to do really, really well. And what are those things that the private sector needs to do really, really well? Capital, to invest, to risk, to grow, to build. Infrastructure, hard infrastructure, things you can drive on and touch and land a plane on. soft infrastructure like broadband everywhere you can breathe. But the number one resource, smart young talent. That's what we need. We need to collect it. We need to have it for the private sector success. We don't grow enough. We don't keep enough. We don't attract enough in this state to supply a very successful private sector. So we need to ask ourselves, where is this number one resource for private sector profit? Where are they? And why are they going to wherever they are? Well, there's been lots of studies on this issue. The smart young talent, they are going to where life is attractive to them. They are going to where there is walkability of a municipality. They are going to where there's nightlife. There is going to where there's diversity. There's going to where there's continuing education, not even for a degree. There is going to where places where they don't need a vehicle. They're going to places where they can have broadband everywhere they can breathe. They are going, when you look at the list, they are going to places where 80% of the list are things that government funds. So if we want to attract that number one resource for private sector profit and position ourselves either in our community, our county, or our state for private sector success, where we have more people making more money, engaged in more commerce, paying more in taxes at current or lower rates, then we need to attract that number one resource for profit, smart young talent. And how do we do that? By investing in our communities to make them attractive to that smart young talent. Well, right now, we have a hard time doing that because our hands are tied. We don't have the resources for that. We are so busy trying to make sure with bubble gum and tape and string that we have a balanced budget, that we don't have the resources to invest in our community, to take care of foster care or clean water or children need protective services or law enforcement. We're barely getting by. And yet, those are some of the things that smart young talent desire. So what is it we are to do? Well, we could limp along. We could do that. But most will do. Or we could look ahead 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future and ask ourselves, what kind of a community do we wish to be? Where do we want to be in 10, 20, 30 years? Do we want to be that community where we are chock full of smart young talent because we have an attractive community and people want to live here, take down roots, grow families, have another generation of smart young talent to supply a private sector that does really, really well? And when we have those increased taxes, take those taxes and reinvest them in the community to make it even more attractive for the next generation? If we do, the time to take action related to that is not in 20 years. It's now. We have to ask ourselves that. And those are not easy questions. They're hard. You know, all the problems we have, we didn't get into these challenges in 1 or 2 years. And we're not going to get out in 1 or 2 years. It takes a long time. In essence, the counties, and not just in Wisconsin, the counties, the communities, the municipalities, the states that are looking far into the future are essentially saying, take my hand. I see a better state. I want to position us for success, our state, our county, our community. It might be a little rocky road for a short time, but we're going to land up in a better spot. We're going to be a place where our children want to stay, where they will grow other children, where we can populate the new millennium knowledge technology-based economy with the number one resource for profit. We're going to invest in our communities. Those are the areas that will flourish. And we have to ask ourselves, all of us, not just in Wisconsin, but all of us, Illinois, Minnesota, Indiana, Colorado, everywhere. What do we want to be? And I'm not making judgment. There is nothing wrong with saying, I like things the way they are now, don't change. Nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with saying, I want to be that diamond where a lot of people want to be and locate their families. Nothing wrong with that either. That's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide. So let me stop there, and then we can take this conversation wherever you would like to take it. And Dale and I are open to any question you have on this, or quite frankly, any other topic. Mr. Chairman?
Any questions? Supervisor Shakur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Mark, for coming. We appreciate all you've done over the years, 30 years plus and some. One thing, if you start a sales tax and you find that it's not working, can you reverse it and not have it? It's one of my questions.
It's a legal question. I think the answer is yes.
Optional sales tax. There's nothing in state law that says that you can't.
So I believe the answer is yes, because it is an optional sales tax. But we would want to get legal clarification to be certain about that, Supervisor, but I believe the answer is yes.
Okay, I appreciate that. Last question I have is, I wonder if, and again, thank you for all the great service you've done with the WCA. Is someone looking at what the heck are we spending our money on as a state? Now, in my opinion, is we're spending a lot on human services and we're spending a hell of a lot on law enforcement and the courts. Now, how do we address that? Reason what I'm getting at is that I think a lot of it is, because I came from a good family, is that the family has been, everybody's going their own way. Nobody sits down and eat dinner together, blah, blah, blah. Is how can WCA or any other organization that's within the state, lobbying the state or whatever, hey, let's get more money in human services so we can have family. We have got to get the family back together. That solves a lot of problems. It's millions of dollars, maybe even billions that's spent on kids getting in trouble. I mean, just look at all the things that happen because you do not have a family in order. Now, it don't have to be a mom and dad. It could be an uncle raising, it could be a grandparent, step parent. I mean, but we have got to get back to that. And how can we do that as a governing body to get into this so we can eliminate or cut, not that I'm saying we want to do that, reduce the budget in human services, reduce the budget in law enforcement, courts, etc.
That is, if you had the answer to that question, I would be addressing you as Governor Shakur. Let's just put it that way. There is no easy answer. There have been study after study after study that tells us that if we had a stronger family unit, we would have not necessarily a corresponding decrease, but a decrease in juvenile corrections issues, in adult corrections issues, law enforcement issues, human services issues, children need a protective service issues. We would have a decrease in the demand on those parts of society that generally counties take care of. We would have a decrease. There is no study that I'm aware of that says something contrary to that. But where's the end? Is it simply putting more money into it, or is it a change in behavior? Many more studies would say it's a change in behavior. That it isn't necessarily additional dollars, but a change in behavior within the family unit. And as you've indicated, it's not necessarily a mother-father family unit, but it could be any adult children family unit where there is a stronger, for lack of a better term, let me put it this way, a stronger sense or understanding of right and wrong and a conveyance of that from the adults to the children, which seems to be at the root to some of their troubles. There is no easy answer. I wish I had one.
Well, not taking a lot of time, but it has been done before. In the West 6th Street area, we had the highest crime per capita in the state. One of the things we organized had 40-something groups, individuals, organizations working together, collaboratively, not one trying to outdo the other, working together. In fact, we did get contacted by the Justice Department and also the governor's office, wondering what the heck we were doing down here that we did it. So
Oh.
we could tell you how to do it, but is anybody going, damn it, listen?
We can help with the listening part. So we can help with that.
Okay, we'll be
Oh,
talking.
yeah, let's chat.
Thank
You know,
you.
I did recall, it reminded me of something else that I wanted to mention. This past legislative session, the state of Wisconsin did something, in my opinion, which was absolutely brilliant and genius. The state of Wisconsin collects its own sales tax, 5 cents on the dollar, 5%. And the state of Wisconsin wants more people making more money, engaged in more commerce. They want that to happen. And they get dollars through income tax and sales tax, mostly. We, on the other hand, at local level, get dollars through the property tax. So I'm making great generalizations here, but the state essentially said, well, locals, we want you to care about more people making more money, engaged in more commerce. We want you locals to care about more income taxes and sales taxes. And we essentially at the local level said, well, doesn't really generate revenue. I mean, you want us to care about the success of businesses, but if a business comes to my county and says, hey, I'd like to talk with you about making another turn lane off of the county road into my business. I might say, well, if I do, are you going to build another building on the property, increase the value? No. Are you going to add on in some way? No. You can improve the building? Not really. Okay, so is the property value going to go up at all? No. Well, then really, do I care financially? Not really. But should I? Yes, I should. We should want local governments caring about the success of a private business. So here's what the state did. The state said, we're going to take of our 5 cents that we collect in sales tax. We're going to take 1 cent of it, 20%, a giant amount. We're going to take 20% of that and we're going to give it to the locals every year. And as sales tax collections go up, so too will the allocation to the local units of government. So now, what has that done? What is the brilliance and the genius of that? Everyone at the local level, all local officials, city, town, village, and county, we now care a great deal about increased sales tax activity at the state level. We care a lot about that. We want a lot more people engaged in more commerce, engaged in more activity, paying more in sales tax. We want that. So now, in a mildly indirect way, a business, we can't necessarily do this according to state law right now, but if a business comes and needs some help in some way, we should want to try to help them. And we can't do it directly. You can't do that according to state law, but to the extent we can, we should want that. Bigger payback on the dollar. So that linkage, I think, was genius. Now we're all moving in the same direction. And quite frankly, I give 100% of the credit to Speaker Robin Voss. He came up with that. I think that was absolutely brilliant. He linked the desires of the state, more people making more money, engaged in more commerce, to the locals. We also desire more people making more money, engaged in more commerce. I think that was tremendous. The more we can do that, the better off we're going to be, all moving in the same direction. Because if we do better as a state, more people making more money, engaged in more commerce, paying more in taxes at current, even lower rates, if we do that, that means the state has more money in sales tax, more money in income tax. And what that means is when we, Dale and I, and our whole legislative team, when we go to the state begging for more human service money, we still may not get it, but at least they have it. They might say no, but they have it. If we don't have that increased economic activity and they don't have the taxes, then we go asking for more human service money. And the answer is an easy no. The answer is no, I don't have it. I want them to have it. They may have other priorities, and I understand that. Might be K-12, might be university, might be a whole host of things. But I would like the state to have that because that means we're doing better as a state. And then we have a chance as counties of getting more dollars for law enforcement or juvenile corrections or foster care or environmental issues, whatever it might be. We have an opportunity at that. So what the state did this past session, absolute genius.
Supervisor Rutkowski.
Thank you, Chair. What percentage of counties in Wisconsin use the sales tax to reduce property tax?
Well, according to law, all counties have to do that. If not for the sales tax, property taxes would go up. So if you, it's not as if any county says, I have $100 budget and I have $100 of revenue in property taxes, $100 of expenses. And then I have this sales tax of $12. I think I'll take that $12 and do something else with it. There are no counties like that. So it would be a county saying, I've got $114 of $100 of revenue. I got $114 of cost. I have $12 of property taxes. If I don't get, or of sales tax, if I don't get the sales tax money, property taxes are going up $14. If I get the sales tax money, property tax is going up $2. By law, it has to go to offset property tax. So if not for the sales tax, property taxes would go up. That's state law.
Supervisor Ekman.
Sort of follow on that, the property taxes cannot go up because of the levy limit without a referendum.
Right, you'd be limited to what the levy would permit, the net new construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
So you'd be in a very, very difficult spot. So in our example, $114 of cost. You have $100 of property tax collections. You have $12 of sales tax collections, let's say. But let's say there's no sales tax. Well, and you look at the net new construction, you'd say, well, we got $3, 3%, $3. We had $114 of cost. You've got a major $11 problem, and you'd have to cut. That's the only option you'd have. Cut.
Other question, is there any discussion at the state level around the state sales tax? Just some quick research, we're at 5% and most of the surrounding states and other are in the 6s. Some context, I moved here from Florida 12 years ago and was of course welcomed with a 5% income tax that I didn't have. And my property taxes doubled, but I didn't even know what the local sales tax was. So I don't know are people flocking to Wisconsin for the 5% sales tax that is competitive compared to other places? Or in my case, I'm taking a 5% pay cut to grace the state of Wisconsin with my presence.
I don't know if people are moving to Wisconsin to get a lower sales tax. I know we just talked about this today. I know Indiana was at 7%, and there might be municipalities that are higher, like Chicago or Indianapolis. They have their own sales tax applied just to their municipality. Dale, that might be a question for you. I don't know. Have we done any studies, or are you aware of any studies about why people are moving or not moving as a result of sales tax?
So over my years in doing public policy research, if you go back probably 15 years ago, when I was at the Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance, we looked at why people were moving different places. And you can only, we don't interview people, why are you moving? So you have to kind of infer. And so when you do a really good analysis of why people are moving, generally it's weather. It's lower taxes in general. You can't necessarily say sales tax or income tax. Um, those are by far the two biggest factors that come into it. But then, you know, the challenge is there's 1,000 reasons why people are moving because they got a job in another state, et cetera. But if you just look at you know, in general, those are the two factors that come to mind. And, you know, I think when you look at overall tax burdens in Florida versus Wisconsin, I'm not positive of this, but I don't think Florida comes out as, you know, one of the top 5 or 6 states as far as lowest. So they get their money somewhere. You know, it might not be the sales tax, it might be the income tax, or it's not the income tax there, but it's other taxes. So it's hard because the mix of taxes are different everywhere.
I guess my point is Wisconsin has a 5% sales tax and it seems to be lower than most states. And you know, as we're challenged with revenue, I mean, certainly we can do our 0.5%, but you know, I just don't know if there's any discussion at the state level of increasing the sales tax.
Well, one of the reasons there hasn't been for the past at least decade is in the past 10 years, tax revenues at the state level have come in above projected and sometimes well above projected. So they're more focused on what taxes we can cut and not at this point. If you go back to the early 2000s and mid 2000s, then we had really tight budgets, and there might have been talk then, but at this point, because of the revenue that the state's collecting, I don't think there's any talk.
Yeah, I've not been in any conversations where people have talked about increasing the state sales tax. They might be occurring, but I've not been involved in those conversations, so I'd be a little surprised. As a corollary, though, in talking with some of my friends, some of my realtor friends, to just talk a little bit about how things have changed a bit. One of the first questions that people would have in home buying would be the education system, right? What are the schools like when you're buying a house? And then you get the taxes as well. But now it's almost equally up there is what's the internet situation? Do I have, you know, what's the broadband? That's a pretty big thing too. And that's another area where government is playing a pretty big role in trying to provide high-speed internet to the masses. A little easier in the municipal areas as opposed to the rural areas, but there's a lot of money being put in that, you know, toward that challenge. But it's kind of a corollary. But I've not heard a lot of conversation in regard to increased state sales tax. There is, however, some conversation at the national level about a national consumption tax of sorts. And I'm not surprised at that, because when we have in excess of $30 trillion of debt, we've got a major financial challenge at the federal level. We're going to have to address it at some point in time, either now or our children and great grandchildren, unless we try to address it. But
Supervisor Hopkins.
So I've received communication from my constituents, both for and against sales tax. As a homeowner, I get the property tax relief. I get it. However, just listening to feedback from my constituents to others, it's been brought to my attention in terms of the non-homeowners. And this particular selling point, not necessarily being an incentive, it possibly being a disincentive in terms of the portion are not homeowners. So I would just caution against putting all the eggs in that basket, and making sure there's other considerations in terms of financial or otherwise incentives to move forward with this. So however way you can do that, you make the case that the younger generation is looking for those government services. which I, I can see that. But that's just it. Looking at not having all eggs in that basket in terms of property tax relief and certainly making other incentive appeals um, to reach a broader segment of the population. So however you can address that, um, however the county can address that, would be beneficial. People to know.
Yeah, I'm not sure that, sort of a kind of an indirect way to maybe try to tackle this issue. Um, the, so that when I talk about the smart young talent, wanting not necessarily government services, wanting the things that government funds. For example, continuing education, not even for a degree. It's not really a government service, but government funds a higher education structure and a system that young people would want to take advantage of. Let's say walkability of a city. In other words, or non-vehicle use of transportation in a city. Not necessarily a government service, but creating an environment where young people, that government would fund, where young people would desire that. So it's creating an environment that is attractive to that smart young talent. That's one area. Try to address the issue. The second, though, on this issue of, let me describe it this way. Homeowners receiving a benefit versus, let's say, renters, right? So it's like if I can, it's much more complicated than this, but I'll try to unfairly make an analogy this way. If you're going to increase a tax on a corporation generically, are they going to say, okay, a dollar extra of cost to me, I'll simply pay it? No, they are going to pass it on. Who's going to pay it? The consumer. All of it, maybe. If the market can handle it, yes. If the market can't handle it, then as much as the market can handle. If a dollar of tax is passed on to a landowner that is an owner of an apartment building, is the apartment building owner going to simply say, that's okay, I'll just make less money, I'll pay it? Or are they going to pass it on to the renters? If they can, if the market can handle it, they're going to pass it on. Let's go the reverse. If there is some kind of a benefit, in property tax relief benefit, does that mean that the rent is going to get reduced, or that the product price is going to get reduced on the corporate side? Not necessarily, but what it might mean is that there's less pressure to increase. So that increase might get slowed or put in abeyance for a year. So we're very unlikely to go backward. So could you say that a renter is getting a direct benefit from a property tax relief mechanism? I don't think you could say that, because they're not paying any property tax. But are they getting the indirect benefit? I think you could make an argument for that. Is the apartment owner getting a direct benefit from a property tax mechanism? Sure, they own property, just like a homeowner, just like any property owner. You could absolutely make that argument. But if there is less pressure on the property tax, then all those direct or indirect underneath are have less pressure on an increased price point to pay that increase. I'm not sure that I'm fully addressing your issue, but it's perhaps the best I can do with without a longer conversation. And I'm happy to chat with you privately about it as well.
Sure. I mean, I understand the reason behind that. I just wanted to voice that.
Yeah.
That it's out there, and it's what I've been presented with in terms of considerations and terms of how we incentivize and sell the sales tax constituents. It's something that we need to be aware of and find a way to address it to mitigate that concern. So, yeah.
It reminds me of years ago, we had the lottery. We had a lot of lottery money, or maybe it was it was a surplus money. I can't remember, but when the state of Wisconsin sent out those little postcards that you could tear off the perforation and you cash the check. I'm not sure if anybody remembers that. So many of them were thrown away because we thought it was junk mail. And they were actual checks from the state as sort of a rebate. I think, was that lottery, Dale, or what was it? Oh, just surplus. Oh.
Check.
Right. So that was trying to take care of everybody. I remember one of the options that was talked about behind closed doors in the Capitol way back then was, well, what if we use this mechanism or that mechanism? What if we did it on the property tax or something like that? Well, you couldn't get it to everyone because we have this thing called the uniformity clause in the Constitution. You have to treat everybody the same. So you can't, the only way to treat everybody the same in that regard was to give everyone a check. And that's what they did. Didn't turn out very well because a lot of people didn't recognize it as a check and we threw it away. But if you went through the property tax, couldn't give it to everyone. I also remember my good friend, the late Senator Mike Ellis said, here's one thing I know for sure. When you take this pile of surplus money and you give it back, next year you got less money. That's what I know for sure. The rest of it, I don't know. He was a humorous character, but
Supervisor Pritzker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, has the legislature or have you lobbied for linking the levy limit to some other economic indicator than net new construction? I'm for levy limits, but I've never understood the link to net new construction because it doesn't really correlate to much of what we do in government, whether it's at a municipal level or the county level. You know, I've made the point to people that no one has a mental illness because they hear we've got a lot of good net new construction in Racine County. It doesn't snow in the county because we've got a lot of net new construction. You know, people don't get into our criminal justice system because we've got a lot of good net new construction going on here. So, you know, what is the solution? Because a zero inflation environment over the last 10 years really hid the issue, and then one-time ARPA money. And now we've got real inflation, and it's, you know, the levy limits aren't keeping up with our costs of labor and material and equipment. Even the sales tax might not fully fix that. So, I mean, I've been asking the legislature with no results, but what are you hearing?
yeah, net new construction is a very odd measure by which we set a limit. Because if you look, not even really deep into it, but just even underneath the surface, what we're really saying on net new construction is counties that are economically well off and growing are getting rewarded. Those that are in a difficult spot are going to be in a more difficult spot. So the gap widens and it becomes very problematic. And it has, in essence, again, very unfairly characterizing this, our functions are basically human-based activities, yet we fund them with a property-based tax. So it doesn't make, there's not a lot of connection there. So does it make more sense to have a different measure? It certainly would. Have we had conversations about that? Absolutely. What is the better one? I could think of a lot of them myself. And smart guys like Dale, that could probably come up with a much better formula. But the issue is going to be, well, we as a state, we don't want to open Pandora's box. We don't want, limits of 5, 6, 7%. Don't want that, which I understand. State doesn't want that. I get that. But we have to, I shouldn't say we have to, we would desire at the local level something that is more connected to the challenges that we face on a daily basis. As you mentioned, Supervisor, the human-based activities that we're engaged in, law enforcement, juvenile corrections, all of those that really have a loose connection to property, but a much greater connection to let's say income, not really net new construction. So have we looked at it? Yes. Would we lobby for it? Absolutely. Would we desire something different? 100%. Yes. Is it likely to happen? That's a tougher one. That's a harder one. But
Supervisor Wish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got property taxes and we got sales tax. Property tax basically is coming from the taxpayer. This is coming from anybody that's in Racine County or whatever county and spending money on whatever. So it's a separate basket, but all has to go to property tax relief? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, sales taxes will be collected based on any purchase that is made by any party within the boundaries of the county on a sales taxable item, except for vehicles. I mean, you can't go outside the county, not pay a sales tax, and then come back in. You're still gonna have to pay the sales tax. So that's a minor exception. But so anybody passing through, you buy it in Racine County, you pay the sales tax. And so I don't know that I would link the two this way. The county would, for lack of a sales tax, lack of that pile of sales tax money, your property taxes would have to go up. If you have that sales tax money, they don't have to go up as much, regardless of where they came from, Racine County residents or otherwise.
So
And they will come from other
sales
places.
tax money is going into the pot with property taxes. How do you differentiate the two once it's together?
It will go into, they'll end up, as Dale indicated, they'll end up being basically considered like a general revenue.
So
In most cases.
How many counties have taken their sales tax and reduced the percentage that's going towards property tax and use that money for something else?
Sorry, could you repeat that? Just,
How many counties?
Yep.
Have existing sales taxes and property taxes? And there's got to be a percentage of whatever that was designated to go towards property taxes that has been reduced. And more of what's being accumulated from sales taxes is not going to property tax.
yeah, I see it. I think, I mean, there's 69 different cases to look at, but I would say the vast majority, maybe all of them. When the county enacted a sales tax, they were in a position where they had a significant financial difficulty. So it was either going to be prior to the levy limits or even way back in the December 1992 tax rate freeze. Prior to that, it was a dramatic increase in property taxes or sales tax revenue. So it was a minor increase in property taxes, or maybe that year, no increase. Then when we had December 1992 tax rate limit, later levy limit, and then levy freeze, and now levy limit again, then it was a slowing of property tax growth because you could only raise it to the point, to the extent the levy limit allowed you to raise it. So I'm not aware of any case, not aware of it, could be one out there, but I'm not aware of any case where there was $100 of property tax collections going on. Sales tax collections of $8 were collected. So property taxes were 92. I'm not aware of any of those because if a county had that happening, there was no reason for them to talk about the sales tax. They just left.
How many counties do you know, if any, who have implemented the 0.5%? It's not enough. Now they're still struggling with property tax, either increases or finding another method of financing.
It's a very good question. And it's all over the board, but I would say what the legislature just did with shared revenue, it was groundbreaking and different than anywhere in the nation. So we're now linked to automatic increases when state revenues increase. So is that going to solve all the problems? No, not going to solve all the problems. But the state has been they're exceptional partners with county government. So are all the problems solved? No, but the state would say it's not our job as a state to solve all your problems. And that's a fair statement. That's fair. We have a lot of authority over a lot of our issues. We're not simply service providers on behalf of the state. We have some authority to make decisions about the quality of life within our individual counties. So we have some leeway. So it's not their responsibility to solve every problem. So is it enough? I would venture to say, with a number of exceptions you can count on one hand, that counties would say, we could use more. That's probably what they would say. There might be less than 5 that would say, I'm doing just fine, no more. Maybe.
Supervisor Capralian.
Thank you. What an honor to have two gentlemen here who have the fingerprint of Wisconsin, I think is what the county executive Roanhouse said, or did he mean something like that? All right. Or that the state of Wisconsin is so deeply imprinted in you two. So it is quite, I think, a benefit for me to hear my peers ask you questions this evening. And I'm hoping this question is just, it's for my mind, maybe to simplify and to use your expertise. I have a few, but the first one would be, and it would ask more to reveal if there's any common hurdles or misunderstandings that counties face considering sales tax. So are there any common misconceptions or that you have faced or you have heard when counties are contemplating decisions like this? So common misconceptions or concerns?
Yeah, I just referenced probably the most common misconception, and that is that if you implement the sales tax and you're going to generate $10, that all of a sudden property taxes are going to go down $10. That's a common misconception, and it's just not the case, because if that were the case, a county would not be considering a sales tax. They wouldn't need it, so they wouldn't be doing it. I mean, I'm not aware of a county that ever wanted to do a sales tax. They did it out of necessity. So that would be a common misconception. The answer to that is they're only doing it. The counties did it, and the other counties did it because that was their only option to take care of their budget challenge.
Thank you for that. And then the other one is really talking about the couple other counties who have not implemented it. I understand at Racine County, I've been sitting here for a little while and understand strategies in which we've taken now up until this point. For the counties who have yet to implement this, adopted the sale tax, do you know of their alternative revenue source or strategies that they've used to fund their services or investments?
Well, we have Manitowoc, Winnebago, and Waukesha, and Racine. Okay. So Waukesha is just an incredibly well-run county, as is Winnebago, as is Manitowoc. I mean, Racine, of course, is. So I think what they're considering between now and if they would ever consider a sales tax, they are looking at cutting departments. Although I know Manitowoc, of course, has implemented a sales tax, and is it January 1? January 1. So let's take them off the table. I know Winnebago has had conversations about it, and I think Waukesha is looking at how to balance their budget in different ways. So that's the gamut right now.
It sounds to me it's the route that maybe all of our 72 counties will take at some point, possibly. Just because, I mean, our situation with our funding and what comes back to and our levy limits too, I think we're challenged, and we want to meet the needs. You talked about our economic growth, what we can aspire to be so we can thrive. And that comes a lot of investment, it comes a lot of visioning, and so there, and I'm assuming all of Wisconsin want that. It's just not us separately here in the southeast region of Wisconsin. So
I guess I mean, go back to your first question. One of the other misconceptions is that a misconception is that a county board or some individual supervisors, not here, but in previous counties, other counties, that they wanted to raise taxes. I have been doing this for 35 years. I have not ever met, despite all the rhetoric, I have never met a single county supervisor, county executive, county administrator, or quite frankly, a state legislator or governor that ever said, I'd like to raise taxes. I, I they do it because they have to. There's no other choice. So I've never met anyone that wanted to do this, that wanted it. So that's a misconception.
Boy, I'm so glad you said that. Just saying it out loud, all of us probably sitting here, it's obvious to us, but I'm glad that you said that out loud. And we've even changed courses a little bit with proposing this, just because we realized it needed some time and consumption, the time of it. But it's because it's a hard decision to make. And I can't say this is the most favorable time to be sitting here as a county supervisor, because you don't want to have something that can be perceived as a burden onto anyone. We're here, I'm sure, for all the positive reasons and to impact people positively. And having a sales tax doesn't necessarily mean there's a negative, but this perception around when money leaves out of my pocket that I give to somebody else, I lose this sense of control, and I have to put faith in someone that necessarily I don't always see. So thank you for, again, stating that out loud.
Any further questions? Well, I have one, Mark.
Sure.
Obviously, we're gonna have a new state legislature, very different probably than last 10 years in Madison. And we have, they've addressed the shared revenue, which helped the counties, but it really helped the municipalities a lot more. And then we've got, we have funding for the public safety that that's a tough one with, anytime I have a fire department EMS or a deputy sheriff's department. Human Services gets a lot of state and federal funds. Is there any move that you could see that the state would support? I mean, we do the support staff for the judges and the DAs, state employees. Would there be any movement on helping the counties pay for the support staff of those state officials, the state office,
So our
employees?
additional funding for the court system is one of our top priorities this next budget. And I believe the state is in a good position. There are coins in their pocket. I think that there may be different individuals in the legislature, but I think after November, I think the Assembly will be Republican. I think the Senate will be Republican. The governor's office will be Democrat. Probably no surprise to anyone. The governor and the legislature don't often have dinner together. They don't see the world the same way. So there may not be a lot of things that they agree on. The governor is going to offer, I think, significant increases in K-12 and in the university's budget. The legislature is going to want a significant tax cut. I'm not sure that there's going to be agreement on that. We may be one of the areas, I say we, meaning county government, may be one of the areas where we can find agreement, which might mean additional dollars in the court system, might mean transportation dollars. There might be a couple other areas. We might be one of those areas where we can find some agreement between the legislature and the governor, and the court system or additional funding into the court system would be one of those areas. Court system's an interesting animal. It's a state. We have state judges, state public defenders, state district attorneys, sentencing individuals to state institutions, sometimes state appointed attorneys, state juvenile correction facilities, basically all state. We get to play some role in that it's county funded. We pay the bill. It's kind of an odd system. So we are asking for a bigger partnership with the state. So that is certainly front and center in our lobbying effort.
Thank you. Any further questions? Well, gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to hear you guys talk.
Thank you, sir.
And I look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, members of the body. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. We've, if you've registered, I've got your I've got your paperwork up here. There's some back on the desk if you want to make a public comment. First one up is Aaron Schmidt. And you have 3 minutes, and Vice Chairman Meyer will be keeping time. Go ahead.
Fair
Aaron.
enough. Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members of the county board. I'm here on behalf of the Racine County Command Staff Association to advocate for the 0.5% countywide sales tax. For those that don't know, we are the frontline supervisors for the Deputy Sheriff's Department. We're the sergeants and lieutenants, boots on the ground people. So our association feels that it's essential for enhancing community safety and the effectiveness of our public services. The safety and well-being of our residents depend on a strong, efficient system that includes law enforcement, courts, human services, public works, and local government. Each component of this intricate system plays a critical role in maintaining public order, providing support to vulnerable populations, and managing the infrastructure that keeps our county running smoothly. In law enforcement, we are the 24/7 service that gets called on when our community has nowhere else to turn. We respond to numerous incidents that cause infrastructure damage. Families call on us when a loved one is having a mental health crisis. In addition to that, we must keep up with the rapidly changing technology to stay ahead of crime and drug trends. This is just a small example of how we are an interconnected system that spans all members of our community. The revenue received will not just sustain our current operations, but will move the system forward, adapting to the growing needs of this county. The safety and well-being of our residents depend on a strong and efficient system that includes law enforcement, courts, human services, public works, and of course, local government. By bolstering these critical services, we not only enhance the quality of life for all residents, but we also foster a safer, more resilient community where businesses can thrive, families feel secure. I urge you all to support this measure. It is a step forward towards a safer, stronger county for all of us. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Michael Schrader.
So we just heard this presentation about taxes. And tonight, you've all decided to not only do a first reading, but a second reading on giving away $1.1 million to a very wealthy area out of Burlington to dredge their lake that they've neglected. And I have real concerns about this because if the county is that broke, why are you giving this money away? Now, following the history of this, the cost to dredge the lake came out quite a bit higher than the engineer's estimate. So either it was a very bad engineer who ripped everybody off, and that should be investigated, or you got contractors who are way ripping the county and the lake and everybody else off. And as an engineer who's done a lot of estimating in my 40-year career, engineers don't mess estimates up that bad unless they're completely incompetent. So I'm going to give the engineer the benefit of the doubt. So before you give away my tax money, I live in Racine, and I couldn't give a whit about some private lake to help some wealthy people out in Burlington. You're taking my money and transferring it out there, and that's not right. So what I would suggest is before you do this, have them go back and rebid it out and not just keep it to local firms, bid it out, do a real bid out and see if we can get that cost down. We got to figure out what blew the estimate before you sit there and start throwing money out. Because if it's that expensive, then just breach the dam, drain the lake and be done with it. Like they were going to do to Echo Lake, but it got voted down. Same thing. It's a lot cheaper to do that. That's what your talented young people would expect. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica McPhail.
Good evening. My name is Jessica McPhail. I want to thank you for looking into this alternate form of revenue through the sales tax This is something that came up about 20 years ago or so. There was a Blue Ribbon Commission, and the funding was going to go towards libraries. As a former library director, I was happy about that, and parks and other public good. Now I'm happy that it's going to the homeowners to relieve some of the property tax. But I have to remind you, there were a lot of people who were legally prevented from purchasing a home because of redlining. Those folks are trapped as renters. They have been trapped. So let's remember that, and let's make sure that the rest of that money is at least partially going to support those vulnerable folks who would love to be homeowners, but because of the generational institutional racism, we're not allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Derez?
Good evening, supervisors. I'm on the Browns Lake Advisory Committee, and I'm here in full support of dredging assistance for Browns Lake. After 10,000 years of natural sediment accumulation, the levels are affecting the aquatic life and recreational value of the lake to the public. This is not a private lake. It's a completely public lake, and all the waters of Wisconsin are public property. There's a large presence of Racine County there at Fisher Park, which is a gem of the county and visited by many, many people over summer and winter. There's kayakers, paddleboarders, fishermen, boaters, swimmers, picnickers, people watching the free water ski show, free paddle events, free Venetian night fireworks, where the whole community is invited. And most of these items are privately funded. For over 50 years, the Browns Lake Sanitary District properties have privately protected, funded, and supported the health of the public waters of Browns Lake through sewer service and installation, weed cutting and harvesting, fish stocking, the exit dam rebuild. We have no inlet, so there is no river flowing into the lake. It's rain fed. The Browns Lake Advisory Committee, the dredging committee. These Browns Lake Sanitary District properties will currently be funding 50% of the dredging, and the town of Burlington has committed to 25%. But we must not forget, this lake belongs to everyone. So it's a very special recreational resource in the county of Racine, and public access is used by many water enthusiasts. The county should participate in the dredging to ensure the health and future of Browns Lake for many more generations of county residents. With the cost spread over 20 years, and in fact, in this case, this project could be funded by the Monsanto Settlement Fund and would have no impact on taxes. I think the question is really, we have done everything we can as a sanitary district and an advisory committee to keep up the lake for over 50 years with private funds. And now this is a bigger project than we can handle by ourselves, and we need more participation from the other people who would benefit from this. And also, there is no inlet, so there isn't new sediment coming into the lake.
30 seconds.
We harvest the excess weeds to keep that from settling and turning into sediment. It's unlawful to deposit any material in the lake. So this project has never been done before and could last 5,000 years before another one would have to be redone. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Cybernailer? Cybernailer? There we go. Cybernailer.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here also to talk about Resolution 2034 or 2024-52 concerning the dredging at Browns Lake. I'm here to endorse and appreciate your support towards this. I'm also a volunteer on the Browns Lake Advisory. I oversee paddling for the lake. My approach is probably going to be a little bit different, but we'll probably replicate a lot what Kim has talked about here. There is good stewardship that has taken place at the lake. Obviously, the sanitary district is one example. The advisory is one. I can tell you at our annual meeting for the advisory, which was held at the Burlington High School the first Saturday in June, 3/4 of the auditorium was filled with people that attended the meeting that obviously supports our concern about the lake at Browns Lake. Browns Lake, as you're aware of, is also a great resource for the county with Fisher Park being there. Fisher Park, as one county official has expressed in the past, is the jewel of Racine County. And it's important, steps are being done to retain that. The dredging project will also be an important facet to end up increasing that. From a paddling perspective, one of the other events of good stewardship is this Venetian Fest that's held, which, as Kim alluded to, is a free event. I can tell you with overseeing paddling, we have a free paddling event in the morning. This year we had 250 vessels, over 284 paddlers. And this isn't just lake. These are the people from Racine County and the area that come and support and utilize this. As I oversee as the advisory for the lake for paddling, it has increased significantly. The area of concern that comes with the way the status of the current lake is the silt. Most paddlers will stay, if you're familiar with lake terminology, within the no wake area of a lake, which happens to be the highest amount of silt that is out there. We also, out of Fisher Park, get a lot of new people that are trying paddling for the first time or getting out there and unfamiliar. I'm really concerned about the overall safety for these individuals, that if they get into the silt area, it is easy to get stuck if you happen to tip over and go in. Also, if you launch your vessel from some other place other than Fisher Park right now, there's a stench that's out there as the lake continues to start getting decrease in the overall
30
level.
seconds.
Okay. Thank you. So what I'm here is to ask your support of this resolution. It is important, not only just for the residents of the lake, but really of all Racine County. And as Mark was just talking about, as we try to attract new talent, this is a great facility to make sure we retain it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Why don't you give us your name and address? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Grace Allen. My address is 126 Ohio Street, Racine, Wisconsin. And I serve a number of different roles in the state and in the county. Tonight, I want to thank everyone for the comments regarding the proposed sales tax. Supervisor Hopkins, I especially am appreciative of the comments that you made that called attention to the possible inequities of the proposed sales tax. I'm going to share something with you all for consideration, especially after I hear all of the rounding support for the lake rehabilitation. And I keep hearing comments about how we are courting the possibility of future generations wanting to find and make homes in Racine and in Racine County. We do have a disparity of home ownership in Racine County, and that disparity is evident in the home ownership between African-American communities and Hispanic community, to the point where the overall home ownership for the Black home ownership is 24.6%. The Hispanic home ownership is slightly higher at 51.4%. The home ownership gap is 49.8%, ranking 28th among all metropolitan areas. So it is inequitable, right? And you do have an option, according to Mr. O'Connell's presentation, on how you're going to choose to direct the funds for this revenue that you're going to realize from increasing a sales tax or imposing a sales tax on Racine. I want to thank also the other comment about the redlining that has occurred as part of institutional racism. But I'm also going to be realistic and let you know that because of corporate purchasing of real estate across the country, we are going to see more rentals happening. And we're also going to see from that same population that you're courting, a pulling away from wanting to have that burden of home ownership. They don't see it in the same way that previous generations have seen it. But if you're going to impose a sales tax on everyone, then there has to be a realization of a gain for everyone. I haven't heard anything said really specific about what's going to happen in Racine. I keep hearing all the excitement for other things that are happening in other counties, but in Racine, city of Racine, we need attention to our public schools,
30
to,
seconds.
to our infrastructure, for our streets, and for just our community at all. So I would like you to consider those things when you are deciding where those revenue dollars are going to be spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Come on. Yep.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kim Serpy, 59013 3 Mile Road in Racine. I am currently working child welfare, and I've been working for Racine County. This is my 25th year. And over the years, we've seen lots of changes. We've had to do lots of cuts and things like that. But as the gentleman stated earlier, you know, we're looking for smart young talent. And that's something that we're striving to get here at Racine County Human Services, especially in the child welfare department. And we're struggling, you know, we're hiring people, not at the same rate that we were years ago. Applicants coming in are much less than they were years ago. And when we do hire people, we're often spending a lot of time and a lot of money, resources, training staff, getting them up and onboarded for them to just go somewhere else, especially to our neighboring counties who offer a higher wage. We're mandated to provide services to the community. And, you know, children and families has been my passion. It's been my passion for 25 years. Helping these families be successful is really important. It should be important to everybody. And we don't think twice about paying a 3% charge on our credit card when we're at the restaurant. But yet we're gonna struggle over increasing some sales tax. So it's something that's important. And just to give you, you know, a little scenario something to think about, if we can't keep employees in the human services department, there's children and families out there that aren't getting the services that they need. They could be people in your family, you know, you could have a child that is, you know, been endangered, and you'd want to know that there's somebody there on the other side looking into that to be able to get it done. And if we don't have the workforce to do that, unfortunately, that's when you start seeing things fall through the cracks. And I don't want to see that happen in Racine. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have another sympathy resolution. And this is for a gentleman who served on the county board long ago and recently passed at the age of 96, former Supervisor Robert W. Johnson. And just a review of our protocol, I will ask unanimous consent that we take this up. Then I will make a motion, and then we will have a vote. And then, assuming the passage, the clerk will read the resolution. And then finally, as a moment of tribute, we will stand at the direction of the chair for a moment of silence. So I do ask now that unanimous consent that we take up sympathy resolution 2024-51.
Go ahead, Supervisor Miller.
Thank you. So I would move that we adopt that resolution.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 2024-51. So we have voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2024-51 by individual supervisors expressing sympathy to the family of former County Board Supervisor Robert W. Johnson. To the honorable members of the Racine County Board of Supervisors, whereas Robert W. Johnson became a member of the Racine County Board of Supervisors in April of 1970 and served until April of 1985, representing the 13th District, and whereas during his tenure on the county board, he served as chairman and vice chairman of the Judicial Administration Committee, vice chairman of the Personnel Committee, and secretary of the Finance Committee. He also served on the Highway and Parks Committee and the Land Use, Agricultural, Environmental, and Extension Education Committee. And whereas during his tenure as county board supervisor, he gained the respect of his colleagues, department heads, and constituents. And whereas Robert W. Johnson passed away on August 30th, 2024, now therefore be it resolved that the Racine County Board of Supervisors stand and pause for a moment of silence in memory of Robert W. Johnson, and be it further resolved that the county clerk send a copy of this resolution to the family of Robert W. Johnson, along with the sincere sympathy of the Racine County Board of Supervisors.
Can we stand? Thank you. Item number 6, reading of the minutes of the previous meeting, which is automatically waived unless requested by a majority of the members present. Item number 7, resolutions and ordinances referred to committee.
There are none.
Item number 8, introduction of resolutions and ordinances for first reading and referral.
Resolution number 2024-52 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the project with the Browns Lake Sanitary District to dredge Browns Lake and transfer $1,100,000 within the Monsanto Settlement 2024 budget. Resolution number 2024-53 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the acceptance of a Wisconsin Department of Justice grant in the amount of $25,000 and transfer within the Public Health 2024 budget. Resolution number 2024-54 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the settlement of the claim of Mid-Century Insurance Company on behalf of Judith Hankus. And resolution number 2024-55 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the settlement of the claim of Gerard Nukowski.
Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm requesting unanimous consent from the board for first and second reading for Resolution 2024-52 and Resolution 2024-53.
You have that. Item number 9, communications and claims.
Number 1, notice of public hearing to consider an amendment to the village's land use element of the multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan for Racine County 2035 from the village of Mount Pleasant. Number 2, relocation order for project number 38340571 located at part of the southwest quarter of the northwest quarter and part of the southeast quarter of section 1, town 2 north, range 19 east, town of Burlington, Racine County, Wisconsin, from the town of Burlington. Number 3, relocation order for project number 38340572 located at part of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of section 19, town 3 north, range 19 east, part of the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter of section 30, town 3 north, range 19 east, town of Burlington, Racine County, Wisconsin, from the town of Burlington. And number 4, notice of pending application, public hearing for wetland individual permit for project located in the northwest quarter, southwest quarter, section 29, township 3 north, range 22 east, in the village of Mount Pleasant, Racine County.
Items 1 through 4 refer to the Economic Development and Land Use Planning Committee.
Number 5, notice of public involvement meeting for County A and County J intersection improvement project in the village of Rochester from Racine County.
Item number 5 is referred to the Public Works, Parks, and Facilities Committee.
And now items number 6 through 7 are claims, and items number 9 through 24 are notifications from the United States Bankruptcy Court.
Items number 6 through 24 are referred to the Finance and Human Resources Committee and Corporation Council.
Thank you. Copies? Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm requesting number 1, 4, and 5.
Supervisor Wishaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like a copy of number 2, 3, and 5, please.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like a copy of 1 and 6.
Any other requests? I would like 5, 6, and 7. Supervisor Kolb.
Copies of 1, 3, and 5.
Any other requests? Seeing none, we're moving on. Oh, you gotta turn your light on, guys. I'm 6 for supervisor. All right, now we're moving on. Communications from the county executive.
Report number 2024-27 by County Executive making an appointment to the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. This was referred to the Economic Development and Land Use Planning Committee.
Supervisor Ekman. Okay, get on there. Okay, then we'll hold it over.
Report number 2024-31 by County Executive making an appointment to the Racine Kenosha Community Action Agency Board of Directors.
Refer that to Health and Human Services Committee. Number 11, standing committee reports containing recommendations on items referred.
There are no reports.
Second readings of resolutions and ordinances.
Under majority vote, we have resolution number 2024-49 by Executive Committee authorizing entry into letter agreement memorializing alternate route to complete looped water main system to serve Wisconn Valley Way, and resolution number 2024-50 by the Health and Human Development Committee in support of state investment for mental health funding.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and seconded. Vice Chairman Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2024-49 is the memorializing the alternate route for the Foxconn project in Mount Pleasant. It's a collaborative effort between Racine County, Mount Pleasant, Foxconn, and TID 5. And it's just to finalize the alternate water route. And I believe it's been coming in under budget, under the $12 million cap. And I believe Debbie Tomczyk is here if we have any other questions at this time.
Is there any questions? Supervisor Miller.
Yeah, if Deb could just give us a real brief overview.
Thank you.
Sure. Debbie Tomczyk with Reinhardt Berner. I'm outside counsel representing the county on the TID 5 matters. We have an obligation already to have Wisconn Valley Way infrastructure installed. The village actually has that obligation, but the Racine County is a party to that as well. That now, instead of doing an entire loop system, we're actually doing a lesser improvement, which has been agreed upon by Foxconn. It was funded previously with $12 million from the Microsoft sales proceeds. And as Supervisor Meyer indicated, it's actually coming in closer to $6 million. And again, so it's already funded, but then that extra overage would be excess Microsoft proceeds that the village will continue to have available. And I believe that will go into our debt reserve. So we'll have additional cushion for that as well. Happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions? Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we had a very good presentation at the beginning of the meeting about how funding is challenging for many areas, and that includes state reimbursements. This resolution 2024-50 focuses on mental health funding from the state, and our health officer, Jeff Langley, is here. I believe he could give us a very brief overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Supervisor Miller. This resolution is to support additional funding for current crisis and community support programs from the state for the 2025-2027 biennium. This would provide state general purpose revenue funding to cover the full non-federal share of Medicaid community support programs and crisis services. The county bears the responsibility for the non-reimbursed services provided for people who do not have Medicaid. So if we provide crisis services to individuals who are not on Medicaid, we may not get reimbursed fully. So this resolution is to encourage the state to contribute some GPR to help offset some of those costs.
Any questions, Supervisor Miller?
Not a question, but because this is intended to be sent to the state legislature as a position paper, I am going to ask for separate consideration with a roll call vote, because I believe it's always better to show that the body enthusiastically endorses, which I hope everyone will, because this is another example of where we're providing a service that's required and we're not getting the reimbursement that will cover those services.
All right, we will have separate consideration. So we'll take up the first resolution 2024-49 on a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Second one, we'll be using the electronic voting machines. Are we ready, John?
First, we need everyone to check in.
Ready to check in? Yeah.
Okay.
All righty.
Supervisor Krupalian, you might need to hit confirm again, please. Oh, there we go. All have voted and motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Next, under a 2/3 majority vote group, we have resolution number 2024-46 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the acceptance of a Wisconsin Department of Health Services grant in the amount of $200,000 and transfer within the Human Services Department 2024 budget. And resolution number 2024-47 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the acceptance of a Wisconsin Department of Children and Families grant in the amount of $80,625.84 and transfer within the Human Services Department 2024 budget.
Motion's been made and seconded. Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to resolution 2024-46, this resolution is requesting the acceptance of a DHS grant, Department of Health Services, for $200,000 for the 988, the improvement project. This funding opportunity allows counties to improve care for individuals that contact 988 that require local crisis response and additional local support. Note that our behavioral health services currently provides 24-hour response to all crisis referrals via local crisis line calls. Next up is resolution 2024-47. This resolution is requesting the acceptance of a DCF grant award in the amount of $80,625.84 to support efforts to keep families intact. The funds are used for protecting and promoting the welfare of children, preventing neglect and abuse of children, youth and their families, and supporting at-risk children, youth, and families to remain intact, including relative supports. That's a brief overview. I do have Jeff Langlieb here to answer any additional questions in regards to these two transfer of grant funds.
Why don't you come on up, Jeff? I've got just one clarification. Could you clarify for the folks what 988 line is?
Absolutely. Before I do that, I wanted to take a moment to also mention that today is World Suicide Prevention Day. And so we have two grants in front of you for consideration and a mental health resolution, which was just passed. So this is a good opportunity to bring awareness to that. And to that end, the 988 is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. It's similar to 911. You call that and you get help. When you're having a mental health crisis, you can call 988. Someone will be there to answer the phone. And then if you need additional services, they can connect you directly with your local county who provides those crisis services, which is Racine County. So this grant will help to our ability to respond to those calls and provide those crisis services to individuals.
Any further questions? This is a 2/3 majority vote. And then if you could, can you unlock Greg Horst the phone number? He's online. I'd like to vote also. Can you hear us, Greg? Still on mute or? Okay. You're not going to be able to get in, Greg. Okay, that's it.
All have voted, motion carries unanimously. Now we have the two items that were requested for first and second reading. this
I'm
evening.
sorry, guys. This is Greg. My apologies. I definitely supported the last one and also the one before that. Sorry, the problem with the audio here.
Okay, we will update our votes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now the items requested for first and second reading this evening, they are both a 2/3 majority vote. That would be resolution number 2024-52 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the project with the Browns Lake Sanitary District to dredge Browns Lake and transfer $1,100,000 within the Monsanto Settlement 2024 budget. And resolution number 2024-53 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the acceptance of a Wisconsin Department of Justice grant in the amount of $25,000 and transfer within the Public Health 2024 budget.
Motion's been made and seconded. Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 2024-52, the dredging of Browns Lake. The funds of 1.1 million are from the Monsanto settlement. The total amount of the Monsanto settlement was just over $2 million, was granted to Racine County for the use of maintaining and restoring clean water throughout our county. Many here tonight have spent time on this valuable county asset, and many here tonight want their children and grandchildren to spend time on this valuable asset. I do have Claude Loyce, the chair of this project, to explain the details. I'd like Mr. Loyce to come forward, please, and take a moment and show a video, a brief video, I promise, of this project that has been in the works and been in discussion for a good period of time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Supervisor.
Mr. Lice, for
Yeah,
joining
we'll
us.
play the video down. I'll go in from there. You can indulge me for a couple of minutes here. That's this year, by the way. July.
project going back to several days, which is also a result of propagation. Response for levels increase. So easy. Stand at the southeast corner of the lake. It's now split for torrential rainfall. Properties are flooded. And it's not uncommon for the water level to be 12 inches below the dam. Lake levels changing so dramatically over the summer. Getting in and out of lakes for such a large change can be a challenge, especially for older folks. Low water level, we also have a bottom coming up, decaying vegetation. So this has created the perfect storm where both roads provide scarring on the bottom. Result of this clear cutting of the vegetation. So you're taking away the habitat of small fish and the larger game fish and the fish experience on the lake. Several things are being done to mitigate some of the problems. One of them is the Wisconsin DNR deep well. This would be built this next year and would provide 1.4 million gallons per day to replace the water that's lost through evaporation and through climate change. The well is 1,400 feet deep, which puts it below the 1 feet layer. That's the dark blue line in the diagram here, which separates deep wells into small wells from shallow wells from the lake. Unfortunately, the well doesn't solve the problem of the bottom coming up from decayed vegetation. As you can see from this picture, the south and west sides of the lake are really light colored. That indicates the depth of the bottom areas. The dredging project has been approved by the Wisconsin DNR to remove almost 400,000 cubic yards of material from the lake down by Valley Bridge. Volunteer committee has been formed. It's looking into ways to fund the dredging project, which is estimated to be $7.5 to $10 million. The group's being pursued is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They provide funding for various projects and it's very, very intended. A team of engineers from the Chicago office of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers came up to the lake on May 1st and took a look at our project, and they are currently evaluating it. That office dispenses about $400 million a year. Also needs for funding of the Senate Committee on Congressionally Directed Spending and the House Committee on the project funding as well as local groups like the county and the state. We currently have an agreement with two of the property owners of some farmland just to be used in the lake. But development going on around the area, a couple of years will disappear in development. So we basically have a one-time opportunity. Goal of all this and to link back to the for many questions.
So thank you, Chairman, Vice Chair, and Supervisors. I'm Claude Loyce, 30620 Durand Avenue, Unit 12. I'm here tonight as the President of the Browns Lake Sanitary District, my part-time job at night. So again, we've been working on this project for decades. I had the pleasure of working on for the last 3 years as the president of the Browns Lake Sanitary District. So as we stated, we do have a permit from the DNR to dredge this lake. And again, it is by the way, Fisher Park is the only public launch on this lake. There's a couple of private launches, but the only public launch for anyone to get on this lake is your park, folks. Racine County Park, Fisher Park. And again, you've done a great job of improving that area, and we do a great job of trying to maintain that area. But right now, the lake is at, kind of a depth stage where we need to do something drastically now, or we may lose that lake at some point in time if we don't do something soon. One of the questions that came back, and again, unfortunately, the gentleman had left here. I'd like to clarify some of his statements that it was bid out. We had 4 bids on this project. The engineer's estimate, again, was in a range from $7.5 to $10 million. The bid came in at $9.3 million. So again, it wasn't a hodgepodge deal. This wasn't put together overnight. This was taken on for the last 3 years. One of the comments that came back is, funding the process. I handed most of you a handout. Some of you from the Finance Committee, you already have it. But if you look at the last page, I'd really like to point you out to that, as been stated earlier tonight by some of the speakers as well, as, we're asking for support. Yeah, 25% from the county, we're asking for 25% from the town. I understand the situation, and the rest of it being burdened by us, quite frankly, the homeowners on a special assessment, and then the Browns Lake Sanitary District as well, which is the same homeowners, by the way, folks, that are also getting a special assessment. So we are paying more than our fair share to do our part for this lake. It's not our lake. It's our lake, folks. We don't own it. We have the pleasure of being on it. I get that. And that's why we agree that we should pay for that. And they are paying for that. So we're here this evening for your agenda. And again, thank you for Mr. Trotter. You're going to get us on the finance, and chairman have a first and second reading. Time is of the essence here. We're in the process. We want to sign the contract with Dredge America, who's the low bidder about the project, by the way. We want to get started yet this fall with the digging of the pond to get it all ready for spring. It's a 2-year process, about a 1.5 year process, I should say. All of 25, but then probably spring of 26 to maybe June or July, they figured they would be done. And again, Fisher Park, we know that's obviously a huge asset for everyone here. We will make sure that to do the best we can to maintain it operational, that it stays open. So they can bury their pipes in certain areas on a lake when they're dredging. So we'll do our best to make sure that the launch, it stays open as much as humanly possible throughout the year. And you saw the route, and it's in the handout I handed you as well, where they're starting from. They're going to start from Fisher and work their way kind of from north to south, or from, south to north, sorry. And along the east side of the lake is where most of the dredging that's going to happen. Is like, if you've been to the lake, like the waterfront area, that's the biggest area, quite frankly. Today if there's 2 feet of water there, and the lake is up, and we've been fortunate this year. Obviously, we are doing the well to try and maintain the water level, but with the rain we've had other than the last month, the lake has been up. It's now down about 2 inches. So there's no way to fill that lake out without Mother Nature. One of the downsides from us for trying to receive grants, and we tried, folks, Army Corps was here. Everyone loves the project. Everyone is supportive of the project. DNR does not have a program anymore for dredging lake. They dropped that program about 20 years ago, state of Wisconsin. Army Corps, when they looked at it, again, they're all for it. The negative part of Browns Lake, nothing feeds it. It's a glacier lake. Nothing comes into Browns Lake. There's no stream, no creeks, nothing comes into Browns Lake. We have a dam when it gets to a certain height where water goes out. Nothing comes in. Negative for all the folks that want to help you support those projects like that. They want you to do more than just one area. So again, we were denied by a number of those folks. So we put the program together that you have in front of you here. We continue to thank the county for their support with the launch of what you've done so far. And again, we're here this evening to ask you to support your funding of the 1.1 million, which again, we've also got the town with the 2.5 million, and the town of Burlington is also going to bond for it because they can get a better rate than we can as a sanitary district. Obviously a bigger, wherewithal as far as the town. So we're ready to move forward here as fast as we can. Thursday of this week, we plan on both our agenda and the town agenda to award the bid to Dredge America. And again, hopefully if things go well this evening, we can keep on moving forward and get this project underway for all of us to have a lake that'll last us for generations to come. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Supervisor Shakur.
Mr. Bud first. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. I saw on the presentation, Lake Mitchell. How is Lake Mitchell tied with
No, Lake Michigan, the watershed. It's only, we're not in part of that little watershed by Lake Michigan.
No, Lake Mitchell.
Oh, Mitchell? Oh, the algae, they were just talking about the algae. There was algae like that was on Lake Michigan as well. You've seen it here on this lake. Yeah, I believe that's what they're referring to.
Just wondering.
Yeah, it should be, everything that's on the video is in here.
I looked, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I can get back to you on what that statement was from that. This was the volunteer that put this video together for us, quite frankly. Yeah, that's all it was, I believe, was just an example, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did have it in 21 on Browns.
Mr. Chairman, I had the same question when we first saw this at finance, but it was just an example of what algae can do.
Mitchell. Cool.
Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up.
Sure, Supervisor Miller. then.
Thank you. So this lake is definitely a county resource. I mean, I can remember many fond visits with my family when I was a child, and that was a long time ago. It's been enjoyed by many generations of Racine County residents. So I have no problem supporting this as a county resource.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
This,
Super.
thank you. This is Greg Horace. Mr. Lois, again, a wonderful presentation. I would have to say that you and I had the opportunity to spend almost 2 hours together as you walked me through the entire plan, detail by detail. And the thing that I walked away with, and this is for all of the supervisors, is that one of the items I've always heard is the importance of our watersheds and our water product in the state of Wisconsin and the importance that we place on it. This is an opportunity for us to help support this individual location and really reflect that commitment to clean water and the opportunities that it represents. So I along with Supervisor Miller, I have to say that I'm absolutely in support of this direction. And Mr. Lois, the one thing I might recommend is that on your video, I'm not quite so sure that park bench pontoon is Coast Guard approved, but I found it rather humorous to visualize. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Cole.
Kind of two questions. One is, who is responsible for the well and the expenses that go along with that?
Browns Lake Sanitary District, we are, sir.
Okay. And then two is, who will be responsible for any overages if you run into them, if this would go over budget?
Browns Lake Sanitary District.
Supervisor Pritzker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't really have a question, but a comment. I'll say that as I was going door to door getting signatures, this was one of the top issues that residents had, was taking care of this project. I've attended several standing room only meetings. The sanitary district had a meeting at the Burlington High School auditorium, and about filled the auditorium. I've attended several town of Burlington meetings that were standing room only, and the communities has widespread support for this. I can't think of really anyone that opposed the project. Most of the questions were really just from residents wanting to understand the impact on them. And that's all laid on in the last page of this presentation. So the people that live closest to the lake are going to be paying the most for it in every facet, right? They're going to be paying as a sanitary district member, they're going to be paying as a town of Burlington resident, and they're going to be paying as a Racine County resident. The impact, even if the county were to levy the full 2.5 million, would be $1 per $100,000 of assessed value. Browns Lake, as Supervisor Miller mentioned, it's an important natural resource that benefits the entire county. So it's not just the Burlington area or even Western Racine County. Lots of families that live in Burlington and on Browns Lake are Racine and City of Racine natives. Lots of organizations from the City of Racine come to Browns Lake every single summer. And it's the only place that gives the public access to the lake, both through the public beach at Fisher Park and the public boat launch at Fisher Park. So I think given the county park there and the public access, the county does have a role to spend money on this natural resource. Secondly is the funding. We have Monsanto settlement funding that has to be spent on water projects in the county. And there are only so many projects in the county that are opportunities to spend this. And I think Jonathan's opinion and my speaking with him was that, other counties are taking the settlement money and putting it into escrow and just maybe spending the earnings on it, which might amount to, I don't know, I think he said 40 or 50,000 a year on projects. But Jonathan's thought was he'd rather give a one-time lump sum money to a project to get a big project done and get it over the finish line that wouldn't otherwise be done. I don't think 40 or 50,000 a year would get many projects over the finish line these days. Third, the project's really well planned. As Mr. Loyce mentioned, they've been working on this for years. They've gone through a pretty difficult and onerous process of getting the permit from the DNR, which has a finite timeline. So they have to get the work done within a certain time, or they'll lose the ability to do it with the permit. So I would humbly ask that the board supports this project. Thanks.
Supervisor Wishaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just keep my comments short. It's mainly just to thank Claude for his work on this, along with the rest of the team. This is quite an extensive process. They put a lot of time and effort into this, and I definitely want to encourage the full board to support this as presented.
And then just a little information or reference, the Monsanto money and County Executive Roanhouse, and when he was county chairman, and myself sat down with Jonathan, and the number was a total of $2.1 million. So there isn't money left for other projects throughout the county. Any further questions?
Spend it, we'll come back.
Any further questions? Supervisor Rossi.
Thank you, Chairman. I seen a resolution 1.1 in my emails, 2.2 or 2.4. Does anyone understand why?
Again, that was determined by the finance committee with the 1.1 million. We asked for 2.5.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
And the last question, then, this would be more so for Supervisor Troutier. Is there a time limit on spending these funds? I just heard we could invest them possibly, but
There is no time limit on spending these funds, to the best of my knowledge. Maybe our attorney, Sarah Street, would address that.
Sarah Kidd.
Excuse me, Sarah Kidd, got the wrong Sarah. Thank you.
They're next to each other, no problem. I would defer to Attorney Lansdorf, and I can certainly confirm with him, but my understanding is what you've indicated as well. No time limit.
that's it. Thank you.
Supervisor Shakur.
Just a quick one. You don't have to answer this, but by doing this dredging process, Browns Lake Golf Course is right there. You have to hit the ball across it. So if this dredging gets done, will it stop your golf ball from going in the water?
Well, you hit them all straight, so I guess you wouldn't have a
If
problem
you're
with
hitting
that.
in the water from there, we need to talk.
Just thought I'd ask.
And Supervisor Caprellian.
Yeah, thank you. Just real quickly, the timeline for beginning and end, and will this affect the recreation use of Browns Lake?
To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, is it going to affect it? Sure. We're going to minimize that the best we can. We're actually happy that they're actually going to start at Fisher and work their way that way around. So again, and we're letting all the folks on the lake know that this is the schedule. Here's when they're going to start. Here's the area they're going to start from. Because again, in our permit that we have from the DNR, we're allowed to go up to 20 feet to the shore. So again, pull out your piers, do whatever you want to do. So make it an easy access for us to get up to that 20 feet to your shoreline. But again, as Fisher Park is there, you will sink the pipe there so that boats can still get on and off the water from that standpoint and still use. I mean, at all times, there'll be excess of 75% of the lake we'll be able to use. There may be a small portion of them might be sectioned off as they're doing their dredging. But by the way, they'll work 7 days a week, 12-hour days. The only day we ask them not to be out there doing the dredging is, you saw on the video, Venetian night. Venetian night, those pictures were from this year, folks. Now listen, we are glad that people use this lake, but as a lake and having the opportunity to be on this lake, I'm not on this lake during Venetian. There are way too many people on this lake during Venetian Fest. So that's the only day we asked the Dredging America that they could not be out there dredging.
So will the timeline be available for public sharing?
Sure, it's on our website. It's on our Browns Lake Sanitary District website. So they'll go from April to November of 25, and then they'll finish up in 26, starting in April. They thought they'd be done somewhere around June or July.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. And now Supervisor Trotter,
Okay.
2024-53.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This pertains to a $25,000 grant for the gun shop project. The Racine County Public Health Division will initiate contact with local gun shops to expand state crisis intervention programs and awareness initiatives. Also, a goal of this grant is to reduce suicide deaths with this information. Again, I have the director of our health department, Jeff Langley, here. Should you have any additional questions in regards to this $25,000 grant?
You want to add anything, Jeff? Is there any questions? These are a 2/3 majority vote. Call the question.
Supervisor Horace, how do you vote?
I vote confirm, yes.
Thank you. I will make sure that that's included. All have voted and motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item number 12, reconsiderations of resolutions and ordinances from previous meetings and or actions on vetoes.
There are no items.
Recommend item number 13, reconsiderations of and or notice of intent to reconsider resolutions and ordinances.
There is no notice.
Number 14, informational reports.
Report number 2024-28 by Finance and Human Resources Committee submitting investment report for the second quarter year 2024 by the Racine County Finance Director. Report number 2024-29 by Finance and Human Resources Committee announcing donations made to Racine County between April 1st of 2024 and June 30th of 2024. And report number 2024-30 by Finance and Human Resources Committee announcing grant applications applied for by Racine County between April 1st of 2024 and June 30th of 2024.
Item number 16, miscellaneous business announcements and oral reports.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ms. Supervisor Miller.
I just want to call attention to and thank our Assistant Corp Counsel, Sarah Kidd, who is with us tonight. She does a lot of things behind the scenes. She does them extremely well. She was very helpful and instrumental in our redistricting process and also in the merger of the Lakeshore Library System into the Prairie Lakes Library System. So it's good to see her tonight. And I too occasionally get her mixed up with the other Sarah. And some people even think they're sisters.
Any Supervisor Kapralian?
I just wanted to remind the supervisors, you are invited next Tuesday, 5:30, for the Youth and Governance Tour of the Marina. Please come down because not only will you get a tour, but you will also get dinner. And then there will be a brief presentation from our very own Pastor Melvin Hargrove as well on his department for the youth. But please come out, 5:30, Marina.
Okay, then I've got just one announcement. Next board meeting is 9/24. I'm going to be calling a committee of the whole at 5:30 or 6 to have an open discussion about the sales tax. So if you have recommendations, whether you want us to talk about it for a half hour or an hour. 3 hours. So that's, any further announcements? 5:30 or 6? Yeah, we have a few, 5 o'clock's a little too early for people that are working, and so it'd be probably 5:30. Huh? 5:30. Yep. Oh, you got to turn your light on then.
Thank
Raise
you.
your hand. Yes, Supervisor Coleman.
I just wanted you guys to just keep, there's 2 families that experienced domestic violence last week, and Khalid Flanagan, he'll be buried Thursday. I've been in his, I watched him grow up, and sorry about that. And then the Prathers family lost the young lady was shot in Kenosha, but she wasn't she's a part of us. She's Racine bound. So you guys just keep the families in your prayers, and we got to do something about this. So thank you.
Any further? We are adjourned.